I was sent an interview over the weekend. Chris Foggan, film director. Chris, good morning to you. He's directed a movie, I think, Tinseltown, that's coming out very shortly.
Right. Is that with Kiefer Sutherland?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was interviewed in the red carpet somewhere by our own Emma Corwin, who comes in and does news bulletins in here. And he was talking very favourably about the show, how it's must listen. He's a huge fan of yours. And of course, you know, Stephen Graham, the actor's a fan of it as well.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And then another bit of news, we might be joined on Wednesday, yet to be confirmed, by John Lydon.
Oh, looking forward to that. Arsenal fan, isn't he?
He's a big Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Former Sex Pistol, of course.
John Lydon, yeah.
John Lydon, once Johnny Rotten.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Iconic Johnny.
That'd be a good listen.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be thrilled if he comes through that door. We're looking at Wednesday for that.
I tell you who's a big fan as well. He's invited me to play in a paddle tournament. It's Jack Draper. He's got a paddle tournament over in London in about 2 weeks' time. Invited me to that, but told me that he's a massive fan of this show.
Excellent. Well done, you. And well done, Jack. Arsenal Invincible, Martin Keown, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you think your boys were going to do it yesterday at Stamford Bridge? 10-man Chelsea.
I don't think Chelsea are ever going to get a better chance, are they, really? When you think that two of those centre-halves who've been probably the best in Europe were missing, I thought the two lads coming in,
it was coming.
A little bit shaky, but I thought Hincapié particularly really played his way into the game. Credit to Chelsea. You know, they had, I thought they were overly motivated or over-aroused, is a comment that Simon usually uses.
Yeah.
When I'm sat next to him,
Caicedo was, I don't know what was going on there, but, you know, I know you've got to be aggressive, but I think he got the balance wrong. He probably did Arsenal a favour.
Yeah. Well, is it a good point for Arsenal or a missed opportunity in their eyes as well? This was Arteta after the game.
Really intense. You could sense from the beginning that every duel, every action has something on it. Two teams very willing to win, and not much football. It was a lot of restarts, a lot of free kicks, stops, a lot of yellow cards. So not a lot of fluidity. But after the sending off of Caicedo, obviously we wanted to settle the game. We didn't manage to do that. We had more yellow cards. We had 4 yellow cards. Obviously, those players were constantly targeted to try to even the game in terms of numbers. And at halftime, we said, okay, let's pause it now. Let's now get what we have to do, very clear what the intention and how we're going to dominate the game. In the first action, long ball gives a free kick, wide free kick, corner, consider set piece. So then the momentum shifts, and emotionally, the team have to react to that. We managed to get some good spells.
Yeah, at the same time, though, Martin, when it goes to 10 men so early in the game, I often think, right, that this is Arsenal's now. This, you know, the team that's got 11. This is their big moment, but it doesn't always work out like that, and I never really know why. Because it's a huge advantage to the side who keeps 11 on the pitch.
Yeah, you'd have thought obviously Arsenal would have taken the momentum, so there's a tinge of disappointment there. But I think Chelsea, that's the 4th time this season that they've been asked to go to 10 men. It hasn't gone well a few times. They've changed the system. Yesterday, I thought they did quite well. Fernandes just dropping back into the 4, so it was 2 banks of 4. It was quite difficult for Arsenal. And then the period when they scored, the start of the second half, you settle it all down. They scored 2 minutes in from a set piece, which was a big blow for Arsenal. But when they got back into the game, Jim, and then, of course, they had to sacrifice, didn't they, Zupimendi. I call him Supermendy. He's that good. I think he's almost the most important player alongside Declan Rice. Took him off. Went after Chelsea. It got a little bit scrappy. They got a bit disjointed. They didn't quite have that rhythm, but you'd expect that. A lot of players coming back from injury, Jim, that came off the bench.
But do I get the impression this morning, rightly or wrongly, you're putting the emphasis more on Chelsea coming up short with 10, as opposed to Arsenal going for the throat and winning it?
When you consider the away games that Arsenal have played in this season and the week they've had, you know, again, these are big games, Jim. You know, local rivals.
Yeah, but
Spurs.
this was a big game yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And they went into the game hampered with injury. The back 4 at the end of the game, there was only one member of the regular back 4 still on the pitch. Calafiori had to go off because he'd had a booking. Supermendy, who sits in, he's the sort of structure, the player that sits so that Declan can now find this new position. So all in all, I think Arsenal will be happy with that. I think actually it's not a bad point. It was more important that Chelsea didn't win this game.
I think it's a good point. I think it's an example of Arsenal's credentials that they can win the Premier League, that they go to an informed Chelsea that are full of confidence, who, by the way, have had the same week as Arsenal because they played Barcelona.
Yeah.
So the idea that, Arsenal turned Ben White into a right back. He was a centre back. So they're now reaping the consequences of that because he can't play in that position anymore because they've got a better right back than when Ben White started. So the circumstances are that Arsenal lost their central defender. Chelsea lost a player. So that was equalised out. So put aside the narrative that Martin wants to spin that they've got players out. I think it's an indication of Arsenal's credentials to go into this game and get something out of it, because Chelsea are in very, very good nick. They're full of confidence, and I expected them to get something out of this game. I am not surprised it was a draw. However the draw manifested itself, I think it's a good draw for Arsenal. Of course, if they went there and beat Chelsea, of course, if they went there and won, everyone would be saying it's nailed on. But I actually think that it shows you that this Arsenal side, who are, I think, are a better side than Chelsea at this moment in time. I think they're a more mature side. They're more seasoned. But Chelsea are nipping at their heels. And what we're seeing now, despite what we all envisaged the season would look like, it looks to me like that Chelsea are going to be the people that are going to perhaps push Arsenal. Liverpool are going to find themselves, they're going to recover, and all of this nonsense about Liverpool will find itself getting together. Man City are not the same team as they were. They're a beatable side. The psychological approach that teams have towards Man City is now gone. They're not beaten in the tunnel anymore. So Man City can be beaten. So it's Arsenal's title, and Chelsea, I think, will be the one that's pushing them. So I'm not surprised it ended in a draw, and I think the fact that Chelsea were highly motivated is A, a credit to Arsenal and their performances, but B, so they should be.
Were they too? You know, like we've sat here last year.
That's rich coming from.
We've sat here last year, and you've said, "Oh, Arsenal, look, another player sent off. Ill discipline's going to cost them." But
that was last year.
Yeah, but the narrative's changed, isn't it? Now
they're seasoned, aren't they?
So look at Chelsea. They've had 4 games. They've lost a player. If they hadn't
Chelsea are where Arsenal were a year ago.
Yeah.
And by the way, Arsenal are 6 years into a project, and Maresco's 2 years into it.
Yeah, but
and Chelsea's ownership were 3.5 years into it.
Let's look at what's happened in the last 2. You're referring to last season, so I'm taking you back to last season when everyone said Arsenal were ill-disciplined. The narrative's slightly different, isn't it? Chelsea, without that ill discipline, would probably be 1 or 2 points behind Arsenal right now.
Maybe. But I wasn't making that comparison.
On the inside, I'm pretty certain today someone's saying, do you know what, that's amazing what we did yesterday.
I wasn't
really aggressive, but we've gone over the top a little bit.
I wasn't making that comparison. And what I was saying is that Arsenal, I think, are a project that's further ahead than Chelsea. My argument is that Chelsea were highly motivated, and fair play to them. Now, I'd rather have them highly motivated than the manager having to rein them in rather than pushing them forward, which is to some extent what was happening last season.
That was their title edition yesterday, though. Did Chelsea come up short?
Well, I don't think they were auditioning for the title. I think they're auditioning for being a very competitive side that are knocking on winning a Premier League much sooner than most people anticipate, because 18 months ago everybody
why were they not going for the title yesterday?
Because they're not good enough. They're going for it. They're not good enough, in my view, to overcome Arsenal. Arsenal right now are the best team in the Premier League, and there is a debate to say they're pushing to be the best team in Europe.
But are they now the challengers? That's what you're telling me this Monday morning.
That's what I think.
They are the challengers to Arsenal.
Yeah,
Chelsea.
and I think that's Maresca last year. He told us they weren't in the title race, and it pretty well blew up. Do you remember him saying that on Boxing Day?
And then he spent the end of the season telling everyone how the media had talked it down.
Exactly that. He swapped places. But I think now that they're ready to win some. I mean, look, they're the World Club champions.
Of course.
You know, so this is a good group. Whatever
Todd
you
Bowley told me after they won that thing that it's not a morning that everybody doesn't waking up at Chelsea and think today's the day we're going to win something significant. This was Maresca on Chelsea's title challenge.
Once again, I sometimes I think I'm a little bit bored, but bored in terms of boring, you know. I have to say again the same. If in February, March we are where we are now, we're gonna be for title. But we are still, you know, end of November, December. Now we are Leeds away Wednesday. That is a very difficult game. So you need to, you know, to be there every time. But for sure, you know, Arsenal tonight, Barcelona the other day, Liverpool, PSG.
He's not been drawn into it yet, Simon. Yeah, maybe February, March we'll talk about the title, but not yet.
Well, that's right. But internally, he will be. I mean, he will talk about the mechanisms that are being deployed. He says that keep on playing in these big games, keep on getting these results against big opposition. The team will start to build. He can talk. Him next door to me, he can talk more about the idea of what belief looks like. I look from the outside in, and having worked with players as an owner, think that they should have the belief system. But there's a difference between thinking you can do something and really believing and knowing you can do it. And I think Arsenal now are in the camp of knowing they can do something, and Chelsea are moving towards that. And I think that's a different psychological approach. It's that extra 2 or 3% in a game that either gives you the know-how, the determination, or the resilience to overcome something, but it might be challenging in a fixture.
Yeah. When you look at it, Martin, and you look at it in the cold light of day, is it a good point for Arsenal, or is it a
just to go back to Maresca, let's go back to Maresca just for a minute. I think he's managing the expectations better this season. Last year, to say no, we're not prospective champions, that pretty well cost them any chance or any opportunity, and you see where it derailed them. This year, they're much more collective. No Palmer, who sits on the bench. By the way, when he gets fit again, he's going to be winning games for them. But up to now, they've coped really well without him. I think from an Arsenal point of view, to keep that 6 points between them and Chelsea was quite key. And it was important that they didn't lose the game. So no ground has been lost, Jim.
Yeah.
Had they lost the game, we're down to 3 points. And then the narrative is, Arsenal have started to bottle it again.
Okay.
I didn't see anyone bottling it yesterday.
Nobody won it at Stamford Bridge. It was 1-1 between Chelsea and Arsenal. But when you think of it, 10-man Chelsea for so long, is it a good point for Arsenal or is it a slightly missed opportunity? And Chelsea fans, if this was some kind of an addition for the Premier League title, did you feel it? You can give us a call, and many of you are doing that. 03717 223344. Jason, big Chelsea fan. Did you feel that addition yesterday?
No, I don't think so at all. 60 minutes against a team that's arguably the best in Europe at the moment, and we've come out with a draw and went in front. Yes, Martin alluded to the fact that their two best centre-backs were missing, but just wanted to say that he said that Calafori had to come off. Why did he have to come off?
He was on a booking, wasn't he?
Well, so was Cucurella. He played the whole game.
You might say he was lucky.
Good point, Jason.
You might say he was lucky to stay on the pitch, no?
Well, yeah, we could do, but he didn't get sent off though.
To turn it to football, I thought Saka gave Cucurella the runaround. To be fair,
see with what Jason's on about.
No, because carry on, Jason. We talk about football as well.
Well, we are.
Yeah, but you said that in your words, Supermendy had to be sacrificed.
Yes.
But you had 11 men, Martin, so I don't know why you had to make the sacrifice.
Because the momentum of the game, you scored just into the second half. The sending off was just at the end of the first half. They had to change, find a solution, didn't they? So they made changes to change it up, and they scored within 2 minutes after they made those changes. The point I was making was that made them a little bit unbalanced. Every player that came on has just come back from injury. Fair comment? Gyökeres, Ødegaard, they didn't quite find their rhythm. And credit to Chelsea. I thought Chelsea was snarling. I thought they got it wrong, though, in terms of he was overly motivated. And if you were 11 men, then you might well have gone on to win the game. We'll never know. But you let yourself down. It's a discipline problem at the moment for the manager. He can sit there and he can talk about his team, and yes, rightly so. He knows they're in the title race. But ultimately, they've had players sent off 4 times this season. It's not ideal. But I think because they got used to that, they had a system that they could go with this time.
What would your response be to that, Jason?
Well, you're saying about overhyped. Yes, he's gone for the tackle. Yep, it was a red card. I'm not denying that at all. However, other than Caicedo, we had 1 player booked. You had 6. So is that overhyped from the Arsenal players?
I think the referee was trying to... The way that it fell, the first free kick of the game was Cucurella. And on Saka.
No, my question is, I think Chelsea were overhyped.
Supermendy gets booked because the referee's laying down a marker to try and create control of this game.
Oh, so it's the referee's fault then?
I thought the aggressors were Chelsea, and I like that approach. You know, that's a game that I think you need to play if you're playing Arsenal. You saw that with Sunderland, no?
But you're saying that we were the aggressors, but you had 6 booked. We had.
But Arsenal didn't have anyone sent off, did they, Jason?
That's very true. And I said to you that it was a sending off. But what I'm saying is, you keep on bringing up this word aggressor and overhyped. However, on the scheme of things,
the evidence will tell you that this season they've had 4 players taken off, sent off. Why?
So we was overhyped. Was we overhyped in those games as well?
Well, by Manchester United, 30 seconds and 5 minutes in, what happened?
The one against Man United is the goalkeeper coming out for a ball that he wasn't going to get. That's not overhyped. That's misjudgment.
Well, he still got sent off, didn't he? There's a full 90 minutes to go. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And my view is that Arsenal, if you're supposed to be the ones that are the team to beat, which you are because you're top of the league, it's points lost for Arsenal rather than gains.
Well, you didn't gain any points on Arsenal, did you? Yeah. Have you closed the gap, Jace?
You're missing the point.
Will you ever get... No, you're missing the point. You had a great opportunity yesterday. 3 of the Arsenal back 4 didn't finish the game.
That's one of those is down to Arteta. He didn't have to take Calafori off. So he felt he did, actually. He felt he did. He's trying to learn and manage his way through. He felt he's a player that's maybe is in trouble in these situations. I'd better take him off. But you can't use that. He was available. Put it that way. He was available.
This is good
stuff.
When
you're saying we had 3 of them missing.
Yeah, we did.
2 of them, yeah.
From the start, by the way.
Who was the other one?
So the 2 centre halves. Saliba, Gabriel, the best in Europe. You've forgotten their names.
No. I'm asking you're saying the third one who wasn't available. Who's that?
So we finished the game with Timber on the pitch from Arsenal's regular back four. That's what I'm saying to you. You won't get a better opportunity to beat Arsenal.
Never mind Jim White and Simon Jordan. This is Martin Keown and Jason, the Chelsea fan, live in talkSPORT. Go on, Jace, finish it off. Finish him off.
He keeps on saying we had one left. That was the choice that Arteta made. Yes, the two centre-halves, and I clearly know who Gabriel is and Saliba.
Well done.
And you're correct, the best centre-halves arguably in Europe at the moment. Calaflori got got taken off by Arteta due to the booking.
Jason,
and that was your original point.
I actually think...
When it comes down to it, Martin, 10 against 11, who is the emphasis more on to win it?
Of course, that's always the situation, but what did we see at Old Trafford last week? We saw Everton go down to 10 men and somehow manage to win the game. Sometimes players... Look, Arsenal in 2002 won the league with 12 times we went down to 10 men. It becomes like a rhythm. You fall into it. And I think that Chelsea have actually profited from the 4 games that they've been off to go into this one. The manager knew, OK, I know what the tactics are. I've got it all wrong at Old Trafford. I'll just grab 2 banks of 4 and just make sure that it can't get through us. And then they score at the ideal time. And it's a tricky place to go.
Let's hear from Raheem, who's an Arsenal fan. Raheem, good morning to you. How do you want to look at this morning? Is it a good point for Arsenal, Raheem, or a missed opportunity?
Good morning, gents.
Morning.
I just want to say it's a good point for Arsenal, in my opinion, because I think we was there for the taking. Chelsea came, and they didn't look like they come to play football. They looked like they was trying to assert their dominance over us. The way they was tackling, the way they was diving in for challenges, they just looked like they was trying too much, and it showed when they got the red card. But if I'm being honest, the defence positions, Calafiori and Lewis Skelly, they're a bit shaky in my eyes. They always do these things where they're a bit rash. Calafiori constantly finds himself out of position. Then Lewis Skelly comes on, he gets a booking in the first 10 minutes of coming on. He starts looking a bit shaky at the beginning. But I do want to praise Christian Mosquera, 21-year-old coming from Valencia, £13 million. He looks an absolute beast. And if I'm being honest, he looks like he could work out to be a better signing than Gabriel or Saliba, the way he's performing at these high levels, at these grounds.
Raheem, listen, thank you for the call. Chelsea didn't come to play football. Keith, the Arsenal fan, do you agree with that?
Well, I would agree with that, yeah. I think they started off with their bully boy tactics. I mean, that challenge from Caicedo was outrageous. And, you know, that highlighted their tactics for me. Having said that, if you'd have said to me as an Arsenal fan at the beginning of the game, would I take a point? I would have said yes. Once Caicedo got taken off, I was just thinking, we have to take 3 points. We have to use this as an opportunity. Yeah. I agree with Simon to a certain degree, though, insofar as we had our 2 centre-halves out. So it kind of cancelled itself out with our 2 best players, if you like, not on the pitch, and then them having Caicedo taken off. But no, I think, look, if you're facing 10 men for 52 minutes of the game, you've got to expect to win. And I think that's 2 points dropped. And I think Chelsea will be happy with the point after having a man sent off, because 10 against 11, not only 10 against 11, 10 against arguably the best side in the country. So I think they will be happy at that point. But one thing I just have to pull Simon up on. Simon's been saying for a long time, it's time for Arsenal to win the league. They supported Arteta, which they have, with money. Chelsea spent £1.5 billion in the last 2 years. If anybody should be expected to win the league, it is them.
Wow. Okay, Keith. What would you say to that, Mr. Jordan?
I don't think but I've been the one person that's been saying Chelsea will win the league in the next 2 or 3 years and been laughed out of the door by all the so-called experts. So I do expect Chelsea to be winning tournaments. But I just look at the reality of what I'm looking at on the field and saying Arsenal's project is a year probably ahead of Chelsea's, which is understandable given their manager's been in situ for 3 years longer than the current manager. And we all know that the change of ownership at Chelsea didn't provide stability. We all know that the change of ownership made what all owners do, which is make mistakes when you first come in, making managerial appointments that aren't fit for purpose.
Yeah.
In a year's 18 months' time, Maresca will probably be in the same nick that Arteta is. And that's my point.
Tottenham fans, what on earth is going on with you? Tottenham put in another poor home game at the weekend, a poor showing, I should say, losing 2-1 to Fulham. This is the stat that floors me. It remains 3 home wins in 21 games thus far. But there's more to this. Tottenham went 2-0 down inside the first 5 minutes with Vicario, the goalkeeper, at fault for the second goal, rushing out a goal, not clearing his lines and giving possession straight back to the opposition, who took full advantage. Well done them. Harry Wilson, it was a beauty. Spurs fans booed Vicario for his role in the whole shebang and then gave him ironic cheers when he next received the ball and booted it away. And Thomas Frank jumped on that, saying, hang on, you lot, that's not on.
I didn't like how the fans reacted on that. I think they booed at him straight after, and also 3 or 4 times when he was on the ball. I think for me that's unacceptable. It can't be true Tottenham fans. Booing after, fair, no problem. But when we in it together. And if we need to turn it around, we need to do it together. So that's hugely important for me.
Might that, Martin, come back to bite Thomas? The ones who booed Vicario, you can't be true Tottenham fans.
No, I think he's got to be true to himself. If he feels that it needs to be said during the game, if you're, this is becoming toxic now, playing at home for Spurs, and you're, the 12th, they used to call the fans, didn't they, the 12th man, and obviously they're working now for the opponent. It's making it very difficult. Okay, you can boo at the end of the game. It seems as if the players are getting hammered on the pitch, and it's almost like an us and them situation, that you have to be united to be successful. So that atmosphere, that the culture there now, it's got to change. But this is 3 home wins in 21 matches. This is like he's brought into us. It's an historical issue, and he's got to turn it round. The previous manager bemoaned the crowd on occasions, so there's nothing new there. They've got to start performing, Jim, on the pitch. And I think with Thomas Frank, I would like to see a little bit more identity of the man himself. So when they played against Arsenal, it was like they were like quite passive, and they set up a system to play a 5 to deal with Arsenal, and then they got battered. Now, if you look at the last 4 matches, they've only had 7 shots on target. So, okay, if you're working with him, you're saying, come on, what are we trying to do? How are we trying to progress the game? What we're building? What's the signature of Thomas Frank? Now, when you're at Brentford every week, it was you go from game to game, flip-flopping from a 4 to a 5 and finding results, slow play, all of these tactics. But now it's about identity, and he's going to have to work out. I'm pretty certain he's going to get there. I think he's hugely intelligent, but he's managing as well through a very difficult situation.
Martin, isn't there? There's a disconnect between the Spurs players and their supporters.
It is, because
and I don't think Thomas helps it.
No, but they've had years of it
like that. If you're a supporter and you've paid your money and you look at your goalkeeper, who, let's face it, started an absolute pantomime moment.
You should put the ball in the stand. There's no doubt about it. He's overplayed. But I didn't see any.
They want to vent their feelings at that moment. What's wrong with that?
I didn't see a player on the pitch though react and maybe go into the goal to react. Maybe that's something I might have done to help him out. You're all in this together. There's too much of blaming individuals here. This blame culture has to change. But ultimately, they've got to start playing some decent football.
This idea of blame culture. First of all, everybody's right in this conversation because the fans have the right to do as they please, because they're the guys that are actually funding football clubs to some extent through television subscriptions and match fees. Do I think it's constructive to boo somebody? Do I think it helps the overall picture? No. But footballers also have to realise that people pay a lot of money to go and watch them play. And if you give them nothing to cheer about, what is it you expect them to do? Get a pat on the back when you're 2-0 down to a rather average Fulham side this season? Yeah. Are you expecting to be rewarded for that? Thomas Frank, has put out performances recently. And I'm in a Thomas Frank admirers club. I like him. I don't think the job's too big for him. I don't think that we should be hounding Thomas Frank out of a job. I think Thomas Frank should be given some opportunity. But that Spurs side, also the hand he's been dealt, Spurs are poor. They're not a good side. I looked at that side on the weekend. I looked at what they are. They're nothing right now. They're missing Maddison. They're missing Kulusevski, their best creative players, and Solanke seems to be forever injured. So I get all that, right? But the fans themselves have seen an absolutely placid performance against their major rivals, Arsenal. They've gone 2-0 down against the Fulham side that are not in particularly good nick this season, albeit they've got a very good manager. They saw them in a previous week, albeit they beat Copenhagen 4-0. And then what we've got is this wonderful week where you got smashed 5-3 by PSG, and because you were in that game for a period of time, that somehow is an encouraging development for Thomas. Look, I remember him at Brentford. He is prone to saying some robust things. I remember him first coming into the Premier League and thinking a couple of times, he was in games where they got beaten, he said, we should have smashed the opposition. And I thought, strange language for you to be using when you've just arrived in the Premier League, but there's no doubt he's a top manager. But this idea that you cannot fans should support. Yes, of course they should.
Of course, and wants to.
But here's the thing. You've also, the responsibility is on footballers to give them something to support.
Right.
It's not just a one-way transaction. It's not just this crappy idea of having a 12th man. But these guys, hang on, Martin, I'm finished. These guys spend a lot of money to come to football stadiums in a world that is miserable in its existence. This country's going down the toilet for various reasons. So when you go to a football match, you expect to be lifted out, not dragged into more bleeding misery. And the Spurs fans don't need that encouragement because half of them are a little bit like that anyway.
Well, you've got Thomas saying, be careful that you don't boo during the game. And then you get Pedro Porro, who seemed to lose his cool towards a Tottenham fan on Instagram after the game. He says, football is emotion. In football, as in life, there can always be mistakes. What I will not tolerate, says Pedro Porro, is hearing disrespect from the fan to my teammates, hence my frustration at the end of the game. So we will get up. We remind you 6 months ago, everything was so bad, and in the end, it's not how it begins, but how it ends. To the true Spurs fan, I love you.
But are you listening to this entitled tribe? I mean, the fact of the matter, it was bad 6 months ago, right? So you were part of that crap, and you're part of this crap too. It's not going much better either. So the fans have just got us pony up hundreds of pounds of money. Of course, I want the fans to be supportive. Of course, I think at times fans should pack it in. When I get West Ham fans coming on here, tell me the new owner should build them a stadium, it irritates me.
So you think the players should just put up with it? Just shut up?
I think.
Do they're talking on the pitch?
Yes. Do I think? If the criticism is unfair, I think Vicario is a poor goalkeeper, and I think he's a bomb waiting to go off. And I think ultimately there's a challenge with that, and the fans probably recognise.
But ultimately, the manager's inherited that, hasn't he?
Yes.
And he hasn't said
that. Doesn't
publicly.
mean that's not the question. The question is, do the fans have a right to express their views?
Exactly.
To some extent, they do. So, Thomas, give them something to cheer about and then have a go at them.
But maybe the fans should stay at home, shouldn't they?
No, what do you want to mute them?
What?
No, you want to mute them?
Because they're not helping. They're not helping the situation. Now, look.
We told them how important they were.
Just let me tell you how it is from a footballer's point of view.
They're not helping.
There are times.
We know how it is.
I'm not going to name clubs, but there was one particular club I played at in my career where actually, in the end, you had to say, well, we're going to have to cock a deaf ear to these fans because they are certainly not helping us.
Win. Give them something to cheer about.
If you're worried about them, you're not going to survive. So forget the fans because they're not really on our side for now. Let's go and play our football.
But that's an excuse. You lot have got big enough mouths. You as players have got big enough mouths to what you're entitled to.
That's the reality. That's the reality.
You get your bums white from dawn till dusk. You do 2 hours a day, and now you expect people to go, well, actually, we should look after them and cheer them all the time.
Look at the clubs that have got support. When you see Sunderland now play at home, they're magnificent. They've gone to a new level because of the fans.
And here's the thing. In a year's time, when the fans' expectation changes and the novelty's no longer there and they're no longer looking with starry eyes at the Premier League, the football fan in them will change and they'll go, I want better performance.
Yeah, but it's levels.
I want better football. I want better players.
It's levels, isn't it? Look, if you want to do this and take your team apart, just carry on. Become a laughing stock.
No.
The manager's trying to correct it. With Brian Clough said it. What about Brian Clough back in the day when he used to tell the fans, behave yourselves?
No, that was when they were running on you're using poor examples. The fact of the matter, he told the media off more than he told the fans. The idea that the fans should just sit there and be served up crap and be grateful for it is probably out of context with where football is right now. Fans are now in a viewpoint. We sat here and went, football without fans, look at COVID, it's dreadful. Get them back at the stadium. Yeah. Oh, no. Only the way we want you to be in there.
When you're ready to support us, come back and support us. For now, we're on our own. Because that's where it looks like.
Martin, there's Ross, the Tottenham fan.
Not got any support at all.
Martin, here's the thing, though. If you're a Tottenham fan this morning, and let's hear from you, actually. 03717 223344. And hear Thomas Frank, who I like him very much. Went over to Brentford, did a couple of interviews with him. He's a good guy, and I like Thomas. But what is he thinking about saying this? Don't boo during the game because that's not good for the player. Are you kidding?
But it's true.
You're not a true Tottenham fan if you boo during the game. Wait till after. No.
But ask Martin the question. Do the Spurs fans, right, put aside the idea of how far they should and shouldn't go, do they have a point?
Well, they're entitled
to
do whatever they want.
Not the entitlement. Do they have a point about the performance of the Tottenham Hotspur team?
Do they have a point?
Do they have a point?
No, because I think it's inexcusable to continually boo your player.
They're not continually doing it.
Because they're basically saying, take him off. And the manager's saying, no, I'm supporting this guy.
But Martin, what are Spurs fans meant to think this morning after that comedy of errors thanks to Vicario? They lose the game on Saturday night.
It's rock bottom.
They've spent their money going to it. Thomas says, don't boo during the game. And then Pedro Porro comes out with, Good morning, everybody. In football, as in life, there can always be mistakes. What I will not tolerate is hearing disrespect from the fan to my teammate. What he won't tolerate.
You want characters, you want personalities, you want people to speak.
Well, do it on the field,
and then you want to ridicule him when he comes out
on the field.
Look, he's better. He's learning this morning that he's better off just doing his talking on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, the fans, it's toxic, isn't it? It's toxic, and Thomas Frank is going to try to look. I like to look. Let's have a look at the club. Let's have a look at the club he's just left, and look at how together that club is. Yeah.
The switchboard's in meltdown. Let's hear from the Tottenham fans. What do you really think about this?
I think he's underestimated the size of the club, and it's a major issue for him. But I think they should stick with the manager.
So what are you saying to the Tottenham fans who booed during the game?
I'd show some respect for the players, or don't turn up at all.
So you're saying, Pedro,
go and watch Arsenal down the road, and much better watch.
Show some respect, or don't turn up at all.
Exactly. How about the players putting in performances that are unacceptable? How about they show some respect for the fans?
I don't think he's making deliberate mistakes.
The players' attitude in the game against Arsenal was totally unacceptable. They weren't at it in a game that meant so much.
No, that was how the manager set up.
We're talking about Tottenham. We're talking about that comedy of errors involving the goalkeeper Vicario. Tottenham lost the game at home to Fulham at the weekend. It remains 3 home wins in 21 games thus far. But Thomas Frank said, hang on a second, don't boo during the game. Because he took issue with the fact that many Tottenham fans showed their ire, their unhappiness during the match. Save it to the end, says Thomas Frank. And Pedro Porro virtually echoed that, saying there can always be mistakes. What I will not tolerate, says Pedro, is hearing disrespect from the fan to my teammates. Hence my frustration at the end of the game. To the true Spurs fan, I love you. But is there a striking disconnect developing between the Spurs players and their fans? Many Tottenham fans getting in touch, and Nick is one of them. Nick, you're at the top of the queue and you're with us live. Good morning, mate. What do you want to say on this?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Great show as always.
Thanks,
football, I agree with Simon 100%, and football is an emotive sport. When I go and watch Emma Raducanu play tennis, if she misses a shot on match point, she doesn't get booed. If you see a cricketer drop a catch, he doesn't get booed. I didn't boo Vicario. I was stunned. But I would say that the people who booed him probably thought the same as me. We spend £1,500 a year, my season ticket, getting there and back. And after 5 minutes, the game's gone. Fulham are a good side. You know you're unlikely to come back and get a point, much less likely win it. So they boo, and afterwards it was the odd little bit. It wasn't consistent. But they boo because they're thinking, what on earth have you done? You've just thrown us out of the game. We may as well turn around now and go home.
But Nick, Martin says that creates a toxic atmosphere. And if you're going to do that, you'd be as well staying at home.
It doesn't, because the next match, if Vicario plays next Saturday, he will get cheered. It's the fact that the frustration has been building up. 3 Premier League wins in 12 months, and that's not down to Thomas Frank. There's all sorts of other issues. Well, that works out £700 a game. So you're frustrated. A lot of the fans travel a distance. Yes, they don't have to, and they pay good money. One of the most expensive season tickets in the country. Now, if the players can't put up with a little bit of booing, then I'm sorry, they don't deserve to be professional footballers.
And Nick, you would say, if there's booing during the game, Nick, you would say these people are still true Spurs fans.
Well, of course they're true Spurs fans, but they're not constantly booing. It's the odd boo. It was a little bit after that ironic. But then after that, they were getting behind the team. But, these footballers, and Simon is quite right, really, they live in a parallel universe. Everything's done for them. They're on 6 figures. If I was getting what Pedro Porro was getting, people could come and boo me for 90 minutes. I'd gladly take it. So, a little bit. You've got to get real.
Sure. Nick, thanks for the call. Thank you very much indeed. Gavin's another Spurs fan. Gavin, what's your take on it? Do you echo what Nick said?
Hello. Yeah, wow. First of all, I did what Martin Keown did. It cost me £200 a time to go up there. And when I took my nephew, nearly £350. And he come out and said, Uncle, I'd like to see Tottenham win. And I said, Zach, so would I. But first of all, can I say to Simon Jordan that I would vote for him. He needs to get into politics. But Martin
What a shame. We're just losing your line. We'll come back to you, Gavin. David, you're through to us. And you're through to us all the way from Australia. What do you want to say?
Yeah, morning, gents. I'm not really a true Tottenham fan. I've been known to boo and hiss and throw a metaphorical cabbage at the TV screen. It's interesting comments from Martin. I mean, at the tail end of the Don Howe era, at the end of the Wenger era, and certainly the first 2 years of the Arteta era, there's certainly a lot of people kind of booing in the stadium, but you'd have wanted them to go home as well. The fact of the matter is, to build the relationship between the fans and the team, I've got a suggestion. Win some games at home, play some entertaining football, show some leadership. Now, I supported Frank when he was appointed. I thought it was a pragmatic appointment, but he's inherited the Levy legacy of a squad where he's paid, 150 million for Richarlison, Johnson, Tell, Odegaard, the list goes on. Probably our best players at the moment that any other team would cover are our centre-backs. You could never say that about a Tottenham team ever. So the reality of the situation is this, is that Vicario, who's more than happy to take the plaudits and more than happy to berate the younger members of the squad when they make a mistake on the pitch, him and Porro at full time had a go at Bergvall for acknowledging the fans. And apparently it was decided that about a month ago there's going to be some kind of Praetorian Guard at half-time, that all the players go walk down the tunnel at half-time. This is ridiculous. Wake up.
What would you say? Good call. What would you say to that, Martin, from David?
Well, I mean,
more than a few points.
The thing is, like, I'm just looking here, and people might say I want to stamp all over Spurs and enjoy it, but I'm looking at the manager and thinking, well, he's used probably the fewest number of players in the Premier League this season. He's got an army of injuries. There's still enough on the team on the pitch, by the way, and a Fulham team that hadn't really. Okay, they just won, I think, 3 of the last 4, but before that they'd won 4 on the bounce. A Fulham team that lost their way a little bit, and then they go. I think it's just the fans have lost patience as a club. It's successively managers who haven't been able to get it right at home, and they're just. Maybe it's a human reaction. Maybe it's a human reaction, but. Guys, you're making it very easy for the away team every time they rock up, because it's like, if you can keep this lot.
But maybe Thomas Frank and Pedro Porro would have been better off serving up better fare and keeping it on the down low when they're not particularly winning anything.
Social media, I hate this social media, because obviously now he's put himself out there. But he wants to protect his goalkeeper.
No, I mean, and listen to what the caller just said. I mean, he pulled you up about Arsenal fans. They are getting together. And
I don't remember booing. They weren't
booed.
They weren't booing during the game.
Oh, they booed Granit Xhaka.
No, there was a march outside the boardroom.
They picked on Granit Xhaka during the game.
On Avenel Road.
They picked on Granit Xhaka during the game.
I'm going to go to Harry. Finish your points, Harry.
But they're now saying, and this is what the caller just said, the Spurs players are getting together in solidarity in the middle of the field at half-time. I mean, who are you? I mean, really, who are you?
Yeah. Harry, Tottenham fan, you've been waiting patiently, mate. What do you want to say? Finish it off for me.
Yeah, listen, guys. I don't know what right they have to tell us we ain't true Tottenham fans. We pay the tickets, we go watch them, and when they put on appalling shows like that, we got every right to boo them. They can't tell us we can't boo them. We paid the ticket to go watch you, and you're putting on a show like the game was over before it even started. What do you want us to do? We're sitting there watching a flipping horror show.
And yet Martin says you should stay at home.
So, Harry, you're angry now, yeah? The players are angry, you're angry. So what do you do next? What do you do for the next home game? Do you give them another chance, or are you at their throats as soon as they come out onto the pitch?
Well, this is football. Football can change overnight, can change. And if they do put on a good show and you see the players playing with their hearts for the team, then, yeah, we will cheer them on. If we get a good show, like if we see what we're paying for, like at least put effort in. You don't have to. You're not going to win every game. Every team makes mistakes and concedes goals. We understand that, but at least play with all energy. We ain't got no energy. We ain't got no spark. We go to watch the football game.
You guys go to St James's Park next, and when you go there, you'll see what unity is, and you see what fans can do to you when they're behind you. And they would have booed in the past, and haven't they? Had issues, but right now, once you get that
Newcastle
fan
got
base
relegated a few years ago. Oh, that was the owner's fault, of course. Yeah, nothing to do with the players.
Yeah, well, they can't have a go at Daniel Levy now either. It's interesting that he's.
So, are you telling Harry and the Tottenham fans that they should take a leaf out of the Newcastle supporters?
Maybe they should. Maybe they all come together.
There's a really unified support.
The manager's got it out there. There's honest talking.
Harry, before you leave us,
let's see what happens.
Are you a true Spurs fan? Harry, are you still with us?
Hello?
You're still with us, Harry?
Yeah.
Are you a true Spurs fan?
Of course I'm a true Spurs fan.
Well, Pedro Porro loves you, mate.
Yeah, but he loves us, but I was there booing as well because that was appalling.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me I'm not a true Tottenham fan.
Harry, were you booing during the game? This is what the managers. He said, "Look, you can boo away afterwards." But were you booing during the game?
Yeah, I was booing during the game.
You think that helps?
It's football.
Of course it is, Harry. Of course it.
You got to deal with it.
Harry, thank you very much. I mean, Martin, what do you expect them to do?
Give the season ticket to somebody who wants
it. It's during the game, isn't it? I better watch what I'm doing here.
He passes. If you're not going to get behind the team, pass the season ticket to someone else.
Good grief.